Calling all moms, it's time to awaken your vibrant, intuitive, loving self in every area of your life. Join host Debbie Pokornik as she shares thoughts, stories, and tools to help you stand in your power. Listen to Vibrant Powerful Moms, helping everyday women create extraordinary lives. Mondays at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. For more information about Debbie, visit empoweringenergy.com. That's empowering with letters NRG.com.
Did you know that all of the shows on the Transformation Radio Network are available as podcasts to stream or download?
Really?
Check us out. Go to transformationradio.fm. We have business shows, spiritual shows, energy healing shows, and pretty much everything in between. Something for everyone, guaranteed to inspire, educate, and transform. We are transforming the world, one listener at a time.
Views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Moms, are you ready to become enlightened, empowered, and stress-free? Well, get ready, because you are about to tune into Vibrant, Powerful Moms, helping everyday women create an extraordinary life with Debbie Pokornik. Each week, Debbie discusses topics to help you become self-aware, inspired, and on track to create the life you crave. It's time to stop settling and start thriving. And it all begins now on Transformation Talk Radio.
This is Debbie Pokornik, host of Vibrant, Powerful Moms. Today we're going to talk about being resilient, what it means, why it's important, and I'll share some simple tips for how you can bring more of it into your life. Resiliency is the ability to bounce back when it feels like life is striking out at you, to take whatever comes your way, handle it, learn from it, and continue on. Resiliency comes into play when really difficult situations arise, such as relationship breakup, death of a loved one, illness, loss of career, in fact, any big financial challenge, helping someone you love, including yourself, with addiction, and so on. But resiliency actually goes far beyond that. It also factors into your daily existence, whether it be continuing to go to a job that you dislike day after day, forcing yourself to go for treatments at the doctor that you would rather not, or even bringing up a difficult conversation that could result in confrontation with somebody that you're not ready for. It's resiliency that stops a person from giving up on life completely. And it is resiliency that you use to pick yourself up and start piecing your life back together when you hit rock bottom. So as you can see, resiliency is a very important part of our human experience. It helps us shine our light brightly for all the world to see, which is a big part of our personal vibrancy. It factors into our self-worth, and it is the fountain from which our courage and willingness to step up comes from. This is a critical thing for us to model to our kids if we want to help them discover the easiest path through their journey in life. Now remember, that doesn't mean problem-free. It just means being able to deal with obstacles as effortlessly as possible. An absolutely essential life message for our kids to internalize, in fact for all of us to internalize, is that there is no problem so great it cannot be solved. Barbara Coloroso talks about this in her book, Kids Are Worth It, which, incidentally, was one of the first parenting books I read over 20 years ago. And this idea has actually become a foundational piece of everything that I teach. When you truly believe that you can handle whatever life throws your way, you will feel more capable. You will look more capable. In fact, you will be more capable. This doesn't mean you will like what's going on in your life or that you will only have good days, but it does mean that no matter what surfaces for you, you'll be confident that you can make it through. An interesting little and often overlooked fact about resiliency: Humans are born resilient. You do not need to learn how to become resilient. You just need to become aware and fully embrace the fact that it is true. One note of clarification I should make here is that in this case, I'm really referring to strength of spirit and not the physical ability of your body to heal. Although the two are very closely tied to each other and shifting your mindset can positively or negatively affect your health, there are times when your physical body simply cannot bounce back from the damage it has suffered. This is tied to resiliency, but it's too deep a conversation for us to get into in this podcast. So let me just say this a different way. Being resilient doesn't mean you will not die. Death is an inevitable part of living. Being and embracing your resiliency really means that you will live your life to its fullest potential and get the most out of every experience while you're alive. We've all heard stories of people that have dealt with incredibly horrific situations, yet managed to overcome them. In every situation, nothing really changed to get them out of that experience, except for their own beliefs or their willingness to do what needed to be done. They experienced a change of heart, or a paradigm shift really, which allowed them to dig deep and find the strength they needed to start making changes. The resiliency was always there. Let me share a story of a young boy that I worked with on and off for several years. Josh was in grade 4 when I met him. He had brilliant red hair, freckles, and he smiled a lot. He was the kind of kid that asked the left field kind of questions in our full class program that caused the other kids to giggle and make fun of him. He came across as a know-it-all to the other kids when in fact he was just a very deep processor who was trying to understand how to fully integrate what he was learning. And truth be told, in that department, he was actually light years ahead of the kids who were making fun of him. One day I was leaving the school when Josh's mom stopped me in the hall and she started to cry. Apparently Josh was being bullied on the bus. At least that was her definition of what was happening. This had been an ongoing problem since he had started school, and it just wasn't going away. The other kids teased him and called him names, and she was very concerned that this was going to negatively affect him in life. I could see her heart was breaking at the thought of sweet Josh being mistreated. Although I didn't work one-to-one with students or deal in intervention situations, I offered to give her some information to read that might help her to deal with this situation more effectively. To me, Josh appeared strong, capable, resilient, and a little oblivious to his differentness. In other words, he seemed to have pretty thick skin, and he wasn't believing the teasing, which means he didn't think what the other kids were saying was true, so it didn't hurt. This is a key piece of teasing, kind of like making fun of a person's glasses when they don't wear glasses. The teasing, or in this case insult, has to hit a nerve for it to hurt. In other words, you have to believe at least a little bit of what the people are saying for it to bother you. Mom, on the other hand, was very sensitive to her son's unique qualities and wanted to protect him from the brutality of what the world might throw his way. My primary goal was to help Mom recognize her son's incredible resiliency and help him build skills that he'd be able to use throughout his life, no matter what the world tossed his way. To me, this is the key to dealing with most challenging situations, including bullying. And the truth was that Josh was likely going to stand out in any group he became part of. So there was no way we could protect him from the many difficult situations he would face in his lifetime. The best we could do was give him the skills he would need to stand up for himself, to help him recognize that his differentness was part of what made him special, and strengthen his already strong connection to his overall resiliency. Mom struggled with this idea. She wanted to put on a gladiator suit and walk around with Josh, protecting him from anyone who might try to hurt his sensitive soul. This caused some concern for Josh because Mom was inadvertently sending a message that he could not handle this. He was not strong enough to rise above it, and he needed protection if he was going to survive. This does not polish a child's resiliency, but does quite the opposite. It tells them that what the other kids are saying is true, that they are a victim, that they should be very afraid. A few years passed, and while I didn't hear much about Josh, I did hear a lot about his mom. She was fighting the school board, accusing them of not adequately protecting her son. She was tapping into the safe schools movement that was gaining momentum here in our province and trying to change policies nationwide. And she was even involving the police in what was going on. When our paths crossed again, Mom was crying, out and out sobbing. She kept going on about what a rotten and mean world her son needed to endure, and she was not going to stand for it. Her son, who was sitting beside her, about 16 years old by this time, he was actually wincing as she went on about all the unfairness that he was experiencing. She accused me and everyone in the room of not doing enough to protect her boy, and stated several times how much she knew this was hurting him. She was sticking Josh firmly into a victim role and thought that she was doing it in the name of good parenting. Now, rather than judge this mom, what I hope I'm making clear here is that she was doing what so many parents are tempted to do right now. With all the publicity on bullying, with all the messages out there about the evils of our world, the dangers, the viruses, illnesses, toxins, weather anomalies, even the sun is a big danger to us. Drugs, all that. This is called fear-mongering, and it's making many people believe in the victim role, and that the only way to protect their loved ones is to put them in a bubble or to put on their gladiator suit and become a hyper-vigilant protector. Nothing could be further from the truth. The key to helping people thrive in life is to believe in their resiliency and to help them embrace the strength that comes with it. You can only be a victim if you choose to believe that you are. Nothing changes when you adopt this belief, except how vibrant and capable you feel, which in turn influences how capable you are in that moment. So what can you do? Well, I have 3 tips to help you get started in case you feel like you're not polishing up your resiliency on a regular basis. The first one, understand resiliency. Resiliency is a natural part of who you are. You do not need to teach it to your child. You just need to help him understand that it's there and to learn how to keep it polished and working for him. Remember, if you listen to the Give and Take relationship podcast that I did, I talked about one way to strengthen your relationship is to give a firm and consistent message of, I know you can handle this. This doesn't mean leaving your loved ones to their own devices and then walking away. Like, I know you can handle this, I'm out of here. I mean, sometimes that is the answer. But to me, this is more about allowing them to take ownership of the problem they're facing and letting them know that you have their back. So you might use questions like, what do you think you can do to deal with this situation? Or how can I help you with this? Another one would be, I wonder what resources you have access to that might help. You could also use comments like, I wish I had a magic wand that I could wave so I could fix this for you, but I guess it's not really my problem to fix. So I'm here for you. If you want to brainstorm ideas, you can try. Another way you could say that is, this sounds like a difficult problem to solve, but I know you'll figure out something. Let me know if you want help in coming up with a plan. Whatever you decide to say, you want 2 messages to come through loud and clear. Number 1, I know you can handle this. And number 2, I've got your back. Finally, if you're the one facing the difficult situation, remind yourself that you have everything you need to deal with whatever comes up in your life. I'm not kidding here. You have everything you need already. If you don't know how to proceed, seek out supports, because supports are always a good thing. But know that you are the only one who can fix it or deal with the problem. Believe in your ability to do that and find other people to support you in that belief. Beware of those who want to do it for you. They often mean well, but they're really not helping. One final note, Remember that oftentimes fixing a problem is as simple as accepting it and allowing it to unfold. The second tip is to refuse the role of victim. You cannot access your resiliency when you are playing the role of victim. As long as you're feeling sorry for yourself, dwelling on how unfair life is, or blaming others for everything that's going wrong for you, you will not be able to climb out of the hole that you're digging. I think of these things, these feelings of self-pity, revenge planning, victim mentality, and so on, as shovels. And I like to tell people, you can't dig your way out of a hole, so if you're in one, put down the shovel first. No matter how difficult life is, it will never serve you to believe you are a victim. Our society right now is focused on creating this kind of thinking, and too many people have bought into it. Your ego latches onto this fear and pulls it into your core and then uses it to stop you from taking calculated risks, from moving out of your comfort zone, and even from trying to change a difficult situation. Do you know many people stay in a bad relationship or continue to feed their own addiction or move from one illness to another rather than putting their foot down and refusing to settle? They do this because their ego is running the show, and the ego on its own is fueled by fear. Your life experiences are simply that. They're pieces of your journey meant to help you grow and evolve beyond your current level of understanding. When you choose to be afraid of them, you make the experience of going through them far more difficult, and you set yourself up for needing to repeat the process many times over. So notice your fear, acknowledge it, and figure out what you need to do to rise above it. The moment you shift out of the victim role will be the moment your resiliency starts to shine, lighting a path for how to move through your current situation. The third tip I want to share today is to focus on resourcefulness and creativity. Human beings are different from other animals because we have imagination and an ability to think beyond what we already know. In fact, creativity feeds us, not just personally, but as a society. Think about all the inventions that have occurred over time to allow us to not just survive, but to thrive. Things that we take for granted, such as heat sources, fridges, motorized transportation, air travel, vitamin pills. Really, the list is endless. It's this resourcefulness, that ability to find solutions to problems or to create things that allow us to function even better, that helps us to evolve. Now, some of you might want to argue that not all inventions have taken us in a positive direction, and I would have to agree with that. However, for our purposes, let's just focus on the ones that have, because there's lots of amazing things that people have dreamed up that make our life so much easier. Now, just to clarify, when I'm speaking of resourcefulness, I'm talking about the ability to seek out whatever is available to you and to use that item or resource to help you deal with the situation at hand. So sometimes it's people, but it can also be using the internet. It could be a certain skill set. It could be membership in a group. It can also be material possessions. Creativity, on the other hand, is the ability to create something new or to use something in a new way for you. So, for example, if you put your hair in a bun and you don't have anything to hold it in place, so you pick up a pencil and stick it through, that would be an example of creativity. When I was in my late teens, I used to love watching a show called MacGyver, which today's equivalent would be the reality show like Survivor Man. What I loved about MacGyver was that he could get out of any situation by using his resourcefulness. Typically, whatever he found lying around, which usually seemed to involve a paperclip. And then just applying his own creativity to figure out how to use that item to survive. This really helps you to reconnect with your resiliency, because nothing will help you know that you can handle whatever life throws your way like creatively solving your own problem. So don't be afraid to think outside of the box, or even to use the box in a new and unexpected way. The more you do this, the more powerful you will feel. These 3 tips are just a starting point to help you reconnect to your resiliency and become aware of what you might be doing to dull your child's connection with their own. In the case of Josh's mom, her heart was in the right place, yet she was actually causing more damage than the mean kids at school were doing. Now, I have no doubt that this was a piece of Josh's journey in this lifetime, so it's okay that this happened, but that doesn't mean that the rest of us can't use it as a way to learn and therefore skip down that piece of our own path. When you believe in your own resiliency, you rise above a lot of the density in life, and you shift yourself from the role of potential victim into that of the hardy adventurer. With much respect for you and the journey you are on, this is Debbie Pokornik wishing you a vibrant and powerful day.
You've been listening to Vibrant, Powerful Moms with host Debbie Pokornik. If you've enjoyed this show, please give us a shout out and leave us a positive review. To find out more about Debbie and her sisterhood of Vibrant, Powerful Moms, visit empoweringenergy.com. That's empowering with letters NRG.com.